The Persistence tumbled out of the wormhole like a drunk man stumbling through a doorway. Inside the colony ship, alarms blared and coffee cups floated through the air. Commander Elena Reeves grabbed her armrest as the artificial gravity flickered back to life. "Status report," she called out, wiping coffee from her uniform. "We're alive, ma'am," Lieutenant Torres answered from the navigation console. His hands danced across the holographic display. "But we're definitely not where we're supposed to be." The experimental wormhole drive had been humanity's greatest achievement. It was supposed to take them to a nice quiet star system 40 light-years from Earth. Instead, the swirling colors outside the viewport looked nothing like their destination charts. "Well, that's just fantastic," Elena muttered. She pressed the ship-wide intercom button. "Attention all crew and colonists. This is the commander speaking. Good news, we survived. Bad news, we took a wrong turn somewhere. We'll figure out where we are and get back on track. In the meantime, please remain calm and finish your breakfast." Outside the ship, space looked different than anything in their star charts. Nebulas glowed in shades of purple and green. 3 massive stations orbited a nearby planet, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Strange ships moved between them in organized patterns. "Ma'am, we're getting signals," Communications Officer Park said, adjusting his headset. "Lots of them. Multiple sources, different frequencies." "Can we understand them?" Elena asked. Park shook his head. "Not a word. None of it matches any Earth language, but they keep repeating the same patterns. Could be attempts at communication." Elena smiled. This was it. First contact with alien life. Sure, they were lost, but they had found neighbors. "Send back our friendship package. All of Earth's languages, music, art, the whole welcome kit we prepared." What Elena did not know was that the signals were not greetings. They were warnings. The ships surrounding them belonged to the Varathian Dominion Border Patrol, and the repeated transmissions said things like, "You have entered restricted space," and "Power down your engines immediately or be destroyed." On the bridge of the Varathian patrol ship Endless Authority, Captain Thexnor stared at his displays with growing confusion. His crystalline faceplates shifted colors, a sign of distress among his species. "They are not responding to our commands," his weapons officer reported. "They continue broadcasting on open channels." "What are they saying?" Thexnor demanded. The communications specialist studied the incoming data. "It appears to be cultural information. I am detecting audio files, visual media, mathematical formulas, and what might be greeting protocols." Thexnor's faceplates turned orange with frustration. In 3,000 years, the Varathian Dominion had never encountered a species this stupid or this bold. Every intelligent species knew to surrender immediately when meeting Varathian forces. It was simply how things worked. "They are deploying small craft," the sensor operator announced. "Battle pods?" Thexnor asked, reaching for the alert button. "No, Captain, they appear to be. Survey drones? They are scanning the nearby asteroid field and taking samples." Thexnor could not believe what he was hearing. These aliens had entered forbidden space, ignored 73 different warnings in every major galactic language, and were now conducting unauthorized resource surveys. This was either an act of war or the most confident species he had ever encountered. "Send a final warning," he ordered. "Tell them they have one standard cycle to surrender their vessel and prepare for boarding. If they refuse, we will disable their ship and take them by force." Back on the Persistence, Elena was having a wonderful day. They had found aliens, real aliens. The survey drones were bringing back fascinating data about the local star system. The asteroid field contained minerals they had never seen before. "Ma'am, we're getting more signals," Park said. "Same sources as before. They're really trying to talk to us." "Keep sending our friendship messages," Elena said. "Maybe if we're persistent enough, we'll find common ground. No pun intended." She walked over to the science station where Dr. Sarah Chen was studying the alien ships. "What do you make of them, Doctor?" Sarah adjusted her glasses, squinting at the displays. "Fascinating design. Very efficient. Those stations are incredible. They must have artificial gravity and advanced life support. These folks are way ahead of us technologically." "Think they're friendly?" Elena asked. "They haven't shot at us yet. Sarah said with a shrug. That's a good sign. What neither of them realized was that the only reason the Vorathians had not opened fire was because they were trying to follow proper protocol. Captain Thexanor had to give 3 official warnings before engaging an unknown vessel. He was currently on warning number 17, growing more confused by the minute. Sir, the alien vessel is moving, the helm officer reported. Toward our position? Thexanor asked, preparing for combat. No, sir. They appear to be heading toward the 3rd planet. They are. I believe they are preparing to enter orbit. Thexanor's faceplates turned purple with shock. The 3rd planet was Varathis Prime, the capital world of the entire Dominion. These aliens were heading straight for the most heavily defended planet in the sector. Follow them, he ordered. Alert High Command. Tell them an unknown species has entered our space and is approaching the homeworld. They are either incredibly stupid or they have a weapon we cannot detect. On the Persistence, Elena was thrilled. Look at that planet, it's beautiful. And those cities, they're huge. The view screen showed a world covered in gleaming structures. Ships moved between orbital platforms and the surface in constant streams. It was clearly a heavily populated, advanced civilization. This must be their capital, Tora said. We really lucked out with this wrong turn. Prepare a shuttle, Elena ordered. We should send a proper diplomatic team down. Dr. Chen, you're with me. Lieutenant Park, you too. We need our best people for first contact. Sarah looked nervous. Shouldn't we wait for them to invite us? They've been sending us signals non-stop, Elena said. I think that counts as an invitation. Besides, we can't just sit out here in space. We need to explain we're lost and ask for directions home. Within an hour, a small shuttle departed from the Persistence. Elena had chosen her diplomatic team carefully, scientists, linguists, and cultural specialists. They wore their dress uniforms and carried gifts from Earth. Nobody wore weapons. Why would they need weapons when meeting friendly neighbors? Captain Thexanor watched the shuttle approach with mounting dread. He had sent 37 warning messages. The aliens had responded to none of them. Now they were sending a landing craft toward the most secure planet in the galaxy, without permission, without clearance, without even basic communication. Sir, we have orders from High Command, his communications officer said. They want the aliens alive. We are to escort them to the Grand Chamber for judgment. Judgment? Thexanor repeated. That was the term used for war criminals and treaty violators. Yes, sir. High Command believes this is either an elaborate test of our defenses or the beginning of an invasion. Either way, they want to question the aliens personally. Thexanor sent the escort order, not knowing how the humans would interpret it. He expected resistance, combat, or at least fear. Instead, Elena saw the Vorathian ships forming up around her shuttle and smiled. Look at that. They're giving us an honor escort. These folks really know how to make guests feel welcome. The shuttle descended toward the capital city, completely unaware that its crew was about to stand trial for crimes against the Dominion. Elena reviewed her speech notes, excited to make humanity's first alien friends. She had no idea she was flying into what the Vorathians considered a war tribunal. Sometimes ignorance was not bliss. Sometimes it was just ignorance. But sometimes, just sometimes, it was exactly what the galaxy needed. The Grand Chamber of the Vorathian Dominion was designed to intimidate. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, and the walls were made of black stone that seemed to absorb light. 12 judges sat on elevated platforms looking down at anyone who stood in the center circle. This was where the Dominion held trials for the worst criminals in the galaxy. Ambassador David Chen stood in that circle wearing khaki pants and a blue polo shirt. He thought it was a casual Friday kind of situation. Is it just me or is it cold in here? He whispered to Sarah, who stood beside him in a comfortable sweater. Very cold, she agreed. Maybe they like lower temperatures? Lieutenant Park adjusted his tie nervously. He was the only one who had worn a full suit, and even he felt underdressed. I think this might be more formal than we thought. The 12 judges were not all the same species. Elena recognized at least 6 different alien types, some with scales, some with fur, some that seemed to be made of living crystal. All of them looked severe. The central judge, a tall being covered in silver plates, spoke. Its voice came through a translation device that made it sound like grinding metal. "You stand before the High Command of the Varathian Dominion, accused of multiple violations of galactic law." David smiled and raised his hand in a friendly wave. "Hi there. I'm Ambassador David Chen from Earth. These are my colleagues, Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation, and Lieutenant James Park. We're really excited to meet you all." The judges looked at each other in confusion. The central judge continued. "You are accused of unauthorized entry into Dominion space, ignoring military commands, conducting illegal surveys, and approaching the capital world without permission."
How do you plead?
David's smile grew wider. "Oh, I understand. You're reading the list of topics for our discussion. Yes, we definitely need to talk about all of that. First, I want to apologize for the confusion with the survey drones. We should have asked permission first. We're new to space travel, and we're still learning the etiquette." "Etiquette?" The judge repeated, its faceplates shifting to a confused yellow color. "Yes, we made a presentation," David said enthusiastically. He pulled out a small device and projected a hologram into the air. "If you don't mind, I'd like to tell you about Earth and humanity. We come in peace and friendship." The judges were too stunned to stop him. No one in 3,000 years had interrupted a judgment session with a slideshow. David's presentation was enthusiastic and extremely informal. He showed pictures of Earth, mountains, oceans, cities. He explained how humans had developed space travel only recently. He included several embarrassing photos of early rocket tests that had exploded on launch pads. "As you can see," David said, pointing to a picture of a smoking crater, "we're still figuring things out. That's why we're so grateful to have found you folks. We were hoping to establish friendly relations, maybe trade some technology and cultural information." The silver-plated judge held up a hand. "You wish to negotiate?" "Absolutely," David said. "I have a list of things we'd love to discuss. Trade routes, cultural exchanges, maybe some help with our navigation system since we got pretty lost." What followed was the strangest negotiation in Dominion history. The judges would list a violation, and David would enthusiastically agree it was an important topic. When they demanded the humans surrender their ship and technology, David thought they were asking about technology sharing agreements. "We'd be happy to share our research," David said.
We're particularly proud of our medical advances.
"We've nearly eliminated several diseases. Oh, and our agriculture techniques might interest you. We can grow crops in some pretty harsh conditions." The judges looked at each other. Sharing technology freely? That was not how things worked in the Dominion. Technology was power, and power was controlled by the Varathians. "What about your military strength?" one judge asked, a being made of what looked like living smoke. "What weapons do you possess?" David laughed. "Not much, honestly. We have some defense satellites around Earth, basic stuff. A few ships with railguns for asteroid deflection. We've never fought a space war or anything. We're much better at the peaceful stuff. Science, art, philosophy." The judges went silent. "A few defense satellites? Basic weapons?" Either this human was lying, or his species was suicidally unprepared for galactic politics. "But then why did they show no fear?" "You do not fear us?" the central judge asked. David looked genuinely confused. "Fear you? Why would we fear you? You seem like reasonable people." "Well, reasonable beings. I'm sure we can work out any misunderstandings." Sarah leaned over to whisper to David. "I think this might actually be serious. Look at their body language. They're tense," David waved her off. "It's just cultural differences. They're probably as nervous as we are." The judges conferred among themselves in a language the translator did not handle. Finally, the central judge spoke again. "We will accept your surrender under the following terms. You will provide us with all your technology, maps of your homeworld, and specifications of your defenses. In return, we will allow your species to exist as a client state of the Dominion." David nodded enthusiastically. "Great, we can definitely set up an information exchange. We'll send you everything you want to know about Earth, and in return you can share your knowledge with us. This is going to be an amazing partnership." The judge's faceplates turned a confused green color. "Partnership? Of course," David said. "That's what you're describing, right? A mutual exchange of information and resources? We help you, you help us. That's how friendships work." At that moment, a squad of Varathian honor guards entered the chamber. They were massive beings, nearly 8 feet tall, covered in armor that hummed with energy. They moved to surround the human delegation. Lieutenant Park tensed up. Ambassador, I think we might have a problem. The central judge gestured. Take them to holding cells while we verify their claims about their homeworld. We will send a fleet to Earth to confirm their military weakness. The honor guards reached for the humans. This was where things went wrong. On Earth, humans evolved with strong gravity. The average human was much stronger than most other species in the galaxy, but nobody knew that yet. When the first guard grabbed David's shoulder, David reacted instinctively. He turned and gripped the guard's arm, thinking it was some kind of greeting ritual. Maybe a handshake equivalent. He squeezed what he thought was a friendly amount. The guard's armor creaked. The guard made a sound of surprise and tried to pull away. David, confused, held on and patted the guard's shoulder reassuringly. It's okay, big guy. No need to be shy. The guard stumbled backward, clutching his arm. The other guards moved in, thinking their companion was under attack. Sarah and Park, seeing guards rushing them, responded the way humans do when surprised. They defended themselves. Sarah pushed one guard away. The guard flew 6 feet and crashed into a wall. Park dodged another guard's grab and accidentally tripped him. The massive armored figure fell like a tree. Within 30 seconds, 5 honor guards were on the ground, groaning. The human stood there, looking confused and concerned. Oh no, David said, rushing to help one guard up. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? We didn't mean to hurt anyone. The judges stared in shocked silence. Their elite honor guards had been defeated in seconds by 3 aliens in casual clothes. The humans were not even breathing hard. The central judge's faceplates turned bright red, a color none of the other judges had seen in centuries. It meant genuine fear. Perhaps, the judge said slowly, we should continue this discussion in a more comfortable setting. Guards, escort our guests to the diplomatic quarters. Gently, David smiled. See, I knew we could work this out. Do the diplomatic quarters have snacks? We've been traveling for a while. As the humans were led away, now with guards keeping a very respectful distance, the judges held an emergency session. They disabled 5 guards without effort, one judge said. They showed no fear of judgment, another added. They offered to share technology freely, a third noted. No species does that unless they have technology to spare. The central judge's faceplates remained red. Send a small battle fleet to their homeworld. Just a dozen ships. We need to know what we are dealing with. But tell the fleet commander to be cautious. These humans are either the most dangerous species we have ever met, or the most foolish. I am not sure which possibility frightens me more. Commander Zekthar of the Varathian battle fleet looked at the primitive planet on his display screen. Earth was a beautiful blue and green world, completely undefended except for a scattered network of satellites. This is their homeworld? He asked his sensor officer. Where are the orbital defense platforms? The military stations? The fleet yards? The sensor officer checked his readings again. There are no major military installations, Commander. Just civilian stations, communication satellites, and a few weapons platforms that appear to be designed for asteroid deflection. Zekthar felt uneasy. The Dominion had sent him with 12 warships to make an example of humanity. They were supposed to arrive, demand surrender, and make the humans understand the price of defying the Dominion. But this was too easy. It had to be a trap. The satellites are locking weapons on us, the tactical officer reported. Primitive targeting systems. We could destroy them all in minutes. Wait, Zekthar ordered. Let them make the first move. I want to see what they are hiding. On Earth, chaos had erupted. The Persistence had sent regular updates about their successful first contact with aliens. The whole planet was celebrating. News channels showed images of the Varathian capital. Children dressed up as aliens for school projects. World leaders prepared welcome speeches. Then 12 warships appeared in orbit, and Earth's automated defense systems activated. President Maria Santos sat in the Situation Room beneath the White House, watching the displays with growing concern. Tell me again why our satellites are shooting at our new friends. General Morrison pointed at the tactical display. The automated systems detected weapons locks from the alien vessels. Standard protocol is to respond to threats. We're trying to override it, but the satellites are already engaging. Well, stop them. We're trying, Madam President. But the satellites were designed to operate independently in case of communication failures. They think they're protecting us. In orbit, the battle had already begun. Earth's defense satellites were crude compared to Varathian technology, railguns that fired chunks of metal at high speed, and nuclear missiles designed to destroy asteroids. They were not meant to fight advanced aliens, but nobody had told the satellites that. The first railgun round hit a Varathian ship's shields and bounced off harmlessly. The second round hit the same spot. So did the third. The shields flickered. The fourth round punched through and tore a hole in the hull. Commander Zekthar watched in disbelief as his lead ship vented atmosphere. "Report, what happened?" "They are using kinetic projectiles, sir. Solid masses accelerated to extreme speeds. Our shields are designed for energy weapons. The projectiles are passing through the energy field before exploding." "That is impossible," Zekthar said. "Nobody uses kinetic weapons anymore. They are too primitive, too inefficient. The humans do not appear to know that, sir. A nuclear missile struck another ship. The explosion was crude, messy, and far too effective. Varathian shields could handle directed energy, but a massive blast of heat and radiation from all directions overwhelmed the generators. "Evasive maneuvers," Zekthar ordered. "Return fire, disable those satellites." The Varathian ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything Earth had built. Their weapons were precise and powerful. Within minutes, they had destroyed half of Earth's defense satellites, but the damage was done. 2 Varathian ships were badly damaged and 1 was completely disabled. On Earth, President Santos watched the battle with a mixture of horror and confusion. "They're destroying our satellites. I thought they were friendly." General Morrison studied the tactical feed. "Either they're not friendly or this is some kind of misunderstanding. The good news is our satellites did more damage than we expected." "How is that good news?" "We just shot at aliens." "Because it means we're not completely helpless, Madam President." The battle ended quickly. The remaining Varathian ships pulled back to a safe distance well beyond the range of Earth's remaining satellites. Commander Zekthar stared at his damage reports, trying to make sense of what had happened. "They destroyed 3 of our ships," his tactical officer said quietly, "with primitive weapons. Weapons we have not seen used in combat for over 1,000 years." Zekthar's faceplates shifted through several colors: confusion, fear, and a deep red that indicated serious worry. "Send a message to High Command. Tell them Earth is far more dangerous than we believed. Their weapons are unconventional but effective, and tell them the humans fought without hesitation. They showed no fear, even against superior numbers." What Zekthar did not know was that the humans had not meant to fight at all. Within an hour of the battle, President Santos had established communication with the Persistence. Ambassador Chen's face appeared on the screen, looking cheerful despite being a prisoner on an alien world. "Madam President, great to see you. How are things back home?" Santos struggled to maintain her composure. "Ambassador Chen, we just had a battle with the Varathian fleet in orbit. They destroyed several of our satellites. We need to know, are we at war?" David looked confused. "War? No. This must be the testing phase we agreed to. The Varathians wanted to verify our defensive capabilities. It's all part of the treaty we signed." "What treaty?" "The Friendship and Cooperation Treaty. We had a whole ceremony. It was very formal." David did not mention that he had completely misunderstood the entire proceeding. They probably wanted to see how our defenses work before proceeding with the partnership. "Smart, really. You want to know what your allies are capable of." President Santos rubbed her temples. She had a PhD in international relations, but nothing in her education had prepared her for this. "Ambassador, I need you to listen carefully. Did they or did they not attack us?" "Attack? No, it was clearly a test. I'm sure they're impressed with our satellite network. A bit embarrassed about losing a few ships, probably, but that just shows we're valuable partners." Sarah leaned into view behind David. "Madam President, I've been studying their culture. I think there might be some miscommunication happening. The Varathians might have intended this as a show of force, but David interpreted it as something else entirely." "That's what I've been trying to tell you," Santos said. "They're hostile." "Or," Sarah continued, "they were hostile until we accidentally proved we could defend ourselves. Now they don't know what to think of us." Lieutenant Park joined them on screen. "The Varathian guards here have been treating us very differently since the incident in the Grand Chamber. They're polite now, almost nervous, and after the orbital battle they moved us to much nicer quarters." Santos considered this. It was insane, but it was also the only explanation that fit. "So you're saying we accidentally won a fight we did not know we were having and now they respect us?" "Exactly," David said brightly. "See, it all worked out. I'm going to send them a message congratulating them on a successful test and inviting them to a rematch whenever they're ready. Maybe we can make it a regular thing, like war games, but friendly. Ambassador Chen, please do not, but David had already closed the connection. On his damaged flagship, Commander Zekthar received David's message. He read it 3 times, trying to understand. The humans wanted a rematch? They thought this was a training exercise? They were congratulating the Varathians on a successful test? Sir, how should we respond? His communications officer asked. Zekthar thought about it. The humans had defeated a Varathian fleet using primitive weapons and tactics nobody had seen in a millennium. They had done it without fear, and now they were offering to do it again as if it was a friendly sporting event. Either they were insane, or they had reserves of power and confidence that the Dominion could not measure. Either way, Zekthar did not want to find out by fighting them again. Tell High Command we need to reassess the human situation, he said. Do not send more ships. Do not threaten them. We need to study them more carefully before taking any further action. He looked at the blue and green planet on his screen. Such a beautiful world and such a dangerous species living on it. Or maybe they were not dangerous at all. Maybe they were just too stupid to understand when they should be afraid. The problem was, Zekthar could not figure out which possibility was correct, and until he did, he was going to treat the humans very, very carefully. Back on Earth, President Santos addressed the world. She explained that contact with aliens had been made, that there had been a misunderstanding, and that humanity needed to be prepared for anything. She did not mention that their ambassador had accidentally won a space battle by signing the wrong treaty and sending congratulations to the people who had attacked them. Some truths were too strange to share. News traveled fast in the Dominion, even when the Varathians tried to control it. Within days, every subjugated species had heard the story. A new species called humans had entered Dominion space, ignored all warnings, defeated a Varathian fleet, and remained completely unconcerned about the whole thing. In the industrial cities of Krell 7, the insectoid workers whispered to each other in the factories. On the water world of Saluna, the aquatic Salunians discussed it in their underwater cities. Even on distant Praxis Station, the enslaved mining crews shared the tale in hushed voices. The Varathian Emperor Kalseth sat on his throne, watching reports from across his empire with growing alarm. His faceplates cycled through colors rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. The humans are becoming a symbol, his intelligence advisor reported. The advisor was a thin gray being called a Whisper, a species known for gathering secrets. The subjugated worlds see them as proof that the Dominion can be challenged. One lucky battle does not make them a threat, Kalseth said, though his voice lacked confidence. It is not just the battle, Emperor. It is their attitude. They show no fear. They treat our commands like suggestions. They offer friendship where others offer submission. The oppressed species find this inspiring. Kalseth stood and walked to the massive window overlooking his capital. 3,000 years his ancestors had ruled this empire. 3,000 years of order, discipline, and control. And now some primitive species was undermining it all by being too stupid to understand they had lost. What are the humans doing now? He asked. The Whisper checked his datapad. They continue to send friendship messages. They have shared their medical research with us, cures for 17 diseases we have never been able to solve. They have offered agricultural techniques that could increase crop yields by 30%. They have sent us what they call entertainment, stories, music, and something called memes. Memes? Pictures with humorous captions, Emperor. They are spreading through our quantum networks faster than we can contain them. Several planets are already sharing them among the population. Kalseth turned sharply. Our networks are secure. How are primitive aliens bypassing our security? The Whisper looked uncomfortable. They are not bypassing anything, Emperor. They sent the files openly, and our people are sharing them voluntarily. The humans believe they are establishing cultural connections. They do not realize they are destroying our information control. At that moment, an urgent message arrived. 3 subjugated species were requesting direct contact with Earth. They claimed they wanted to establish trade relationships and cultural exchanges. Deny their requests, Kalseth ordered. I already have, Emperor. They are contacting the humans anyway. The humans responded with enthusiasm and set up communication channels. They do not understand they need our permission. Kalseth's faceplates turned the darkest red anyone in the throne room had ever seen. Summon my war council. If we cannot control this diplomatically, we will solve it militarily. On Earth, David Chen was having the best week of his life. The Varathians had moved his team to a diplomatic suite with comfortable beds, excellent food, and unlimited access to their computer networks. He spent his days learning about galactic culture and making friends. Look at this, he said to Sarah, showing her his data pad. 3 different species want to talk to us. The Krellians, the Selunians, and the Praxians. They're all asking about Earth and our technology. Sarah frowned as she read the messages. David, something is odd about this. They all mention being part of the Dominion, but they talk about it like they are not happy to be part of it. Maybe they are new members, still adjusting. We should help them feel welcome. I've been sending them information about human culture, movies, music, books. They love it. What David did not realize was that he was conducting the most effective propaganda campaign in galactic history. Every file he shared, every friendly message he sent, was being copied and distributed among populations that had lived under Varathian control for generations. The Krellians received human documentaries about social movements and civil rights. The Selunians watched human films about freedom and independence. The Praxians read human philosophy about dignity and self-determination. None of it was classified. None of it was military. It was just human culture, but human culture assumed freedom was normal and oppression was wrong. On Krell 7, a worker named Tixar watched a human movie called The Shawshank Redemption on a smuggled datapad. When it ended, he sat in silence for a long time. Then he shared it with 10 friends. They shared it with 10 more. Within a week, half the Krellian population had seen it. Workers began to talk openly about things they had only whispered before. They organized. They made demands. On Seluna, a human song called We Shall Overcome became an underwater sensation. Selunians added their own verses in their musical language. The Varathian garrison tried to ban it, but it was too late. You cannot ban a song once everyone knows it. On Praxis Station, human motivational posters became a phenomenon. Pictures of humans climbing mountains with captions like, "The only limit is yourself" and "Dream big, work hard, never give up" appeared on every wall. The Varathian administrators tore them down, but new ones appeared overnight. The Varathian War Council met in a secure chamber deep beneath the capital. 20 military leaders surrounded a holographic display showing the entire Dominion. The situation is deteriorating, General Vexelarn reported. We have labor strikes on 12 worlds, protests on 8 more. The Praxian mining colony has stopped production completely. They are demanding better conditions and citing human standards. Crush them, another general suggested. Show them the price of rebellion. We tried that on Krell 7, Vexelarn said quietly. We arrested the protest leaders. The humans found out and sent a message expressing concern for their new friends' well-being. They asked if they could help mediate. 50,000 Krellians marched on the garrison demanding we release the prisoners so they could talk to the human mediators. Emperor Kalseth slammed his fist on the table. How did the humans find out? Who told them? They have been sending friendship messages to everyone, Emperor. They asked questions. People answer. The humans think they are making friends. They do not realize they are gathering intelligence. And sharing it, the whisper added. When the humans learn something troubling, they share it with everyone they know. They posted about the Krell 7 arrests on their public networks. Now the entire galaxy knows. Admiral Thornzek, the oldest member of the council, spoke for the first time. I fought in the expansion wars. I have seen many enemies. The humans are not like them. They fight without fighting. They conquer without armies. They win by making friends with our subjects. They are not winning, Kalseth insisted. They are just confusing the situation. Are they, Emperor? Thornzek asked. Because from where I sit, they are destroying an empire we spent 3,000 years building. And they are doing it by being nice. The room fell silent. Finally, Kalseth spoke. What do you recommend? I recommend we eliminate them before they eliminate us, Thornzek said. Assemble the Grand Armada. Every ship we have. We go to Earth and we end this threat permanently. That is a force meant for galactic wars, someone protested. Surely we do not need— Yes, we do, Thornzek interrupted. Because I am not sure we can beat them. Oh, we can destroy their ships and their satellites. We can bombard their planet. But can we destroy their ideas? Can we destroy the hope they have given our subjects? Can we put that back in the box? Nobody had an answer. So we overwhelmed them, Thornzek continued. We show every species in the Dominion what happens when you defy us. We make an example so terrible that nobody will ever think of the humans as heroes again. Kalseth nodded slowly. Assemble the Grand Armada. We move in one standard month. In the meantime, block all communication with Earth. No more messages, no more cultural exchanges. We need to contain this situation. But it was already too late. David had spent weeks making friends across the galaxy. He had sent them thousands of files. He had established communication networks that did not depend on Varathian systems. When the Dominion tried to cut off Earth, they discovered that the humans had accidentally built a galaxy-wide internet that bypassed all official channels. It was a mess of civilian satellites, relay stations, and jury-rigged connections that should not work, but somehow did. The humans called it the Friendship Network. The Varathians called it a nightmare, and in the shadows of that network something was growing. Former subjects of the Dominion were talking to each other, sharing ideas, making plans. They had spent generations afraid to hope. Now, thanks to some oblivious aliens from a primitive planet, they were beginning to believe that change was possible. Revolution was not coming. It was already here. The Varathians just did not know it yet. The Grand Armada had not been assembled in nearly 1,000 years. 500 warships gathered in orbit around Varathis Prime, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. It was a force that could conquer entire star systems. Emperor Kalseth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and watched his fleet prepare for departure. This will end the human problem, General Vexillarn said confidently. They cannot stand against this much firepower. Kalseth's faceplates were a troubled purple. I hope you are correct, but I cannot shake the feeling we are making a mistake. Emperor, they are primitives with crude weapons. We are bringing overwhelming force. What mistake could we make? Kalseth did not answer. He just watched the stars and wondered why he felt like he was sailing toward disaster instead of victory. On Earth, Ambassador Chen received notification that the Varathian Empire had declared formal war on humanity. He read the declaration 3 times, getting more confused each time. This does not make sense, he said to Sarah. We have been nothing but friendly. Why would they declare war? Sarah had been studying Varathian culture intensively for weeks. David, I think we need to face facts. The Varathians did not want friends. They wanted subjects. Everything we have done, sharing technology, making contacts with other species, spreading our culture, it threatened their control. But we were just being nice. I know. That is what makes this so strange. We accidentally started a revolution by being nice. Lieutenant Park burst into the room, his face pale. Sirs, we have a problem. A massive problem. The Varathian Grand Armada is heading toward Earth. 500 ships. The President wants to know if we can negotiate. David stood up immediately. Of course we can negotiate. We just need to talk to them. Explain the misunderstanding. David, Sarah said gently, I do not think they want to talk. Everyone wants to talk. You just have to give them the right opportunity. David grabbed his data pad and started composing a message. I am going to invite them to a cultural festival. We will celebrate galactic unity, share food, music, art. Once they see we are serious about friendship, they will understand. Sarah and Park exchanged glances. They both knew this was insane. They also knew that somehow David's insanity had been working so far. What do we have to lose? Park said with a shrug. We cannot fight 500 warships anyway. David's invitation went out across every communication channel humanity had. He invited the Varathian Empire to Earth for the first annual Galactic Unity Festival. He invited every species he had been talking to, the Krellians, the Selunians, the Praxians, and dozens more. He promised food, entertainment, and friendship. The Varathian War Council read the invitation in disbelief. Is this a joke? General Vexillarn demanded. We are bringing an armada to destroy them and they are inviting us to a party? It appears to be genuine, the Whisper said, studying the message. The humans are broadcasting it openly. They seem to think they can resolve this situation with cultural exchange. Emperor Kalseth read the invitation himself. It was warm, enthusiastic, and completely oblivious to the danger humanity faced. Against his better judgment, he felt a small amount of respect for these bizarre aliens. They face annihilation with music and dancing, he said quietly. Either they are fools or they understand something we do not. They are fools, Emperor Vexlarn said, and in 3 days they will be dead fools. But something unexpected happened. The subjugated species started responding to David's invitation. They could not travel to Earth. The Varathians controlled all jump points, but they organized their own festivals on their homeworlds. They declared they would celebrate Galactic Unity Day whether the Varathians liked it or not. On Krell 7, millions of workers stopped production and filled the streets. They sang human songs and waved banners with messages of peace. When the Varathian garrison tried to stop them, they simply sat down and refused to move. On Seluna, the underwater cities lit up with bioluminescent displays showing human and Selunian symbols side by side. The Varathian administrators threatened arrests, but how do you arrest an entire planet? On Praxis Station, miners organized the largest strike in Dominion history. They demanded freedom, fair treatment, and the right to attend the festival on Earth. When denied, they shut down every mining operation in the sector. The rebellion was not violent. There were no weapons, no armies, no battles. It was just millions of beings standing up and saying they wanted something different. They wanted what the humans had promised: friendship, cooperation, and respect. The Grand Armada arrived at Earth to find chaos in their ranks. Crew members were deserting. Entire ships were refusing orders. The Krellian contingent had mutinied and was broadcasting messages of support for Earth. Emperor Kalseth watched his empire crumble in real time. How did this happen? The humans' emperor, the whisper said. They spent weeks making friends, sharing their culture, offering help. They treated our subjects like equals, like friends. And now those subjects would rather side with humans they have never met than follow us. On Earth, the festival was in full swing despite the Armada in orbit. Humans gathered in cities around the world, celebrating first contact and hoping for peace. They broadcast their celebration to the entire galaxy. David Chen stood in the center of Times Square, addressing a camera that sent his image across the stars. Friends throughout the galaxy, we gather today to celebrate unity and friendship. We know there are tensions. We know some of you are afraid, but we believe in the power of connection, the strength of community, and the possibility of peace. Behind him, musicians played, dancers performed, artists created, children laughed. It was not a military demonstration. It was not a show of force. It was just humans being human, optimistic, social, and stubbornly hopeful even in the face of destruction. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, junior officers watched the broadcast. They watched humans dancing with the same joy they had seen in their own children, before the Dominion's rigid control crushed it out of them. They watched humans sharing food freely, the same way their ancestors had before the Empire made everything about power and control. One young officer named Kreshivar spoke up. "Emperor, permission to speak?" Kalseth almost denied it, but something in the young officer's voice made him pause. "Speak. Sir, why are we doing this?" "Those humans down there, they have not hurt us. They tried to be our friends. Yes, they broke our rules, but maybe our rules were wrong." "That is treason," General Vexlarn said. "Is it?" Kreshivar asked. "Or is it just obvious? I have served the Dominion my entire life. I have enforced order across a dozen worlds. And for what? So we could keep people afraid? So we could hoard technology while others suffered? The humans shared medical cures freely. They offered help without asking for anything in return. When did we stop being heroes and become villains?" Silence fell across the bridge. Other officers nodded. Nobody wanted to be the first to speak, but Kreshivar had said what they were all thinking. Emperor Kalseth looked at his war council. He saw doubt on every face. "Admiral Thornzek, your recommendation?" The old admiral stared at the planet below. "I recommend we do not fire, Emperor. If we destroy Earth, we become the monsters the humans accidentally convinced everyone we are. If we let them live, perhaps we can learn from them." "They defeated us without firing a shot," Kalseth said. "They conquered an empire with friendship and music. How do we fight that?" "We do not," Thornzek said. "We join it." The decision came from an unexpected source. Kalseth's granddaughter, Princess Velsara, had been secretly consuming human media for weeks. She had watched their movies, listened to their music, read their books. She entered the bridge without permission, something that would normally mean imprisonment. "Grandfather," she said, her face plates showing determination, "I have been learning about humans. Do you know what they do when they meet someone new?" "What?" Kalseth asked wearily. "They shake hands. They smile. They ask questions and listen to answers. They look for common ground instead of dominance. And you know what? It works. They made more allies in a month than we made in 3,000 years. We do not need allies, Vexlarn protested. We have power. And where has that gotten us? Velsara asked. Half our empire is in rebellion. The other half is too afraid to rebel but wishes they could. We rule through fear. And now we face someone who rules through friendship. There is no competition. They already won. Kalseth looked at his granddaughter. Really looked at her. He saw hope in her face, something he had not seen in a Varathian in generations. The Empire had bred hope out of them, replacing it with duty and discipline. What would you have me do? He asked. Go down there, Velsara said, pointing at Earth. Attend their festival, apologize, ask for friendship, and then help us rebuild our empire into something worthy of respect instead of fear. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Emperor Kalseth stood. Order the fleet to stand down. Signal Earth that I wish to attend their festival. Alone, unarmed, and in peace. General Vexlarn looked horrified. Emperor, you cannot, but I can and I will. General, you are relieved of duty. Anyone else who objects to peace may leave with you. 20 minutes later, a small shuttle left the Eternal Dominion. Inside was Emperor Kalseth, dressed in simple robes instead of armor. He was terrified. Thank you for watching and comment.